Now on Indianapolis This Week.
As I formally announce my candidacy for mayor of the city of Indianapolis.
Joe time for Indianapolis Democrats, as Joe Hogsett confirms he's running for mayor. We have an exclusive Sunday morning sit-down with the new candidate, plus the Hoosier lawmaker moving up the ranks in Congress, and changes coming for IPS. We go one-on-one with the superintendent, and it all starts right now.
From RTV6, the Indy channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
Thanks for joining us. We begin with the race for mayor. Democrat Joe Hogsett finally making the official announcement this week that he's a candidate for that job. It came Wednesday night at MLK Park in front of the landmark Peace Memorial, honoring Robert Kennedy's speech from the night that Dr. King was assassinated. His speech was heavy on public safety, reducing crime, and expanding the success of downtown Indianapolis into the city's neighborhoods.
Indianapolis must do better. But in order for that to happen, all of us must do better for Indianapolis.
Here with us now is the Democratic candidate for mayor, Joe Hogsett. He most recently served as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Indiana and was Indiana's Secretary of State from 1989 to 1994. He also served as the state Democratic Party chairman. Welcome to the program. Why you as mayor in 2015?
Well, Rafael, serving as the U.S. Attorney for the last 4 years, the chief federal law enforcement official, I think I'm uniquely well positioned to help Indianapolis collaborate and cooperate in ways that perhaps our city has not been able to do at the local, state, and federal level in addressing the crime epidemic that we are currently experiencing. And so those experiences as the United States Attorney, my relationship with federal law enforcement, state and local law enforcement, I think makes me uniquely well qualified to address what I believe is on everyone's mind in Indianapolis, and that is peace in our streets and safe neighborhoods. In fact, during your remarks when you announced, you said the one thing you can guarantee teachers and police officers that you will protect them as well as you will protect your family. That's a strong guarantee. Well, it is a strong guarantee, and yet if we don't have a leader with the bold vision and the energy and the daring that it takes to lead a great city like Indianapolis. If we don't have a leader who's willing to spend a couple of hours every single day doing the things that are necessary to put together a strategic effort in public safety, then people are going to continue to feel unsafe in their neighborhoods, and shortly thereafter, they'll leave. You said in your opening remarks as well that you want to go back to community policing. Mm-hmm. Will that be a cornerstone of your policies? Yeah, I think that community policing is an excellent way to not only improve the relationships between the police department and our citizenry, but I think it really, as a law enforcement tool, is best practices, so that a police officer knows everyone in their neighborhoods, and everyone in the neighborhoods knows their police officer. A public safety tax was passed by the City County Council in an effort to raise money to hire more police officers. Mm. Is that the best way to do that? Will you support that tax, and what other measures will you support to pay for and hire more police? Well, in the course of the last 8 years, Rafael, there have been 2 public safety tax increases in Marion County, and then there was an attempt at a third, which was dismissed. But the important thing is using the public safety tax and the revenues generated by it for public safety purposes. The irony and the challenge that I think this community faces, and the questions that I get asked as I travel around, is why have we experienced 2 public safety tax increases over the last 8 years, and yet today we have fewer officers on the street than we did 8 years ago? Where's that money gone? How's it been used? I think the important point is this. If you're going to increase revenues, as the City County Council has recently done for public safety purposes, they need to be kept for public safety purposes so that we can add more officers on the street. Another big issue is pre-K. Mm-hmm. You've already been slammed by the GOP, the Marion County GOP, saying you won't support it, you won't pay for it, thus why should you be mayor? You believe it's a state function. Do you still believe that, or do you believe that county residents should go to
to the polls like they did in Columbus, which it was voted down in Columbus, and vote to raise taxes to pay for pre-K education?
Well, I've been absolutely clear in the position of support for pre-K. I mean, as a former federal prosecutor, as someone who is very concerned about the rising level of crime in our city, a good start in life, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, so that they can begin to make good choices and start making decisions that are productive, not destructive. That is a fundamental premise, I think, of any kind of anti-crime effort. That's why I'm very supportive of pre-K. I took issue with the administration's proposal as to how it was going to be funded. There was essentially another public safety tax proposed, taking property taxes to fund the pre-K. I am glad that city leadership in a bipartisan way has now apparently come together to fund the pre-K program, and I am supportive of it. In specific response to whether or not this is ultimately the responsibility of the city of Indianapolis, I do encourage our governor and the members of the state General Assembly to strongly increase their commitment and their support for pre-K programs throughout Indiana, including Indianapolis.
Mayor Ballard will not be seeking a third term, so you don't know who your opposition will be. But he told us that had he run for a third term, he was going to win anyway. That internal polls showed him ahead of everyone in the field. Do you believe that?
Greg Ballard is a great guy, and I know that he is very well liked by the citizens of Indianapolis. I have always been admired his 2 terms in office. He's made a very difficult decision, but I hope it's the best decision for him personally. He would have been a formidable opponent, but he would have run on a record that we could have contrasted. Whether or not I would have been able to succeed or he would have been able to succeed, that's now a matter of speculation that'll never be answered. But I respect the mayor and I support his decision.
You have a good friend in Democrat State Representative Ed Delaney, who's still in the race. There may be a May primary. Will you try to ask him to continue that campaign, or do you believe we should have just one candidate? How will that face off? Or is that a difficult discussion to have with a fellow Democrat?
No, it's not difficult discussions at all. In fact, Ed Delaney, who has been a friend of mine for 30 years, a man who is a leader in every respect, he and I have already met on 3 or 4 occasions just in the last 3 or 4 months and had productive discussions about issues that are of importance to Ed, issues that are of importance to me. And I think at the end of the day, I hope that we're able to work it out. But Rafael, this is America, and anybody who wants to run can and should. And so if we're able to work things out and unite our campaigns, I think that would be a good thing. But if Representative Delaney chooses to run, I'm sure it will be a positive, issue-oriented primary.
And final question, when you were U.S. Attorney, you were shielded from a lot of stuff. But now that you're running as a candidate, it's an open book. Have you prepared Mrs. Hogsett and the children? And are you ready to be asked about everything from trash to snow to international politics? Are you ready for the different role that this will take on, as opposed to being the U.S. Attorney, where you're sort of untouchable?
Well, I'm getting ready for it, okay. Rafael. You know, I've had 3 months to explore and move around the community to ask people what are the important issues to them, and I've been learning quite a bit. There's a lot of good things about this city, but we also face very important systemic challenges, and I want to be the kind of dynamic mayor that encourages creativity, encourages innovation, encourages restlessness, because I think our best days are yet to come.
Joe Hogsett, thank you so much. Come back to the program.
Thank you,
Joe Hogsett, Democratic candidate for mayor of Indianapolis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, we dig deeper into the race to replace Greg Ballard in the mayor's office. We turn to our political insiders next. Indianapolis This Week continues. Joining us now to our political insiders, Democrat Kip 2, Abdul Hakim Shabazz with IndyPolitics.org, Mary Beth Schneider, former State House political reporter with the Indianapolis Star. Welcome to the roundtable. Always good to start this Sunday with you guys.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
It was a good week for Democrats, I think, after a terrible week before that.
Now you're looking ahead to elections you think you can win. Joe Hogsett got in. Is he a lock in the primary first because he's got Ed Delaney?
Well, you never want to say anything's a lock because anything can happen in politics. A couple of weeks ago, we thought that Mayor Ballard was on coast in the re-election, and now he's not even running. And I do think Joe Hogsett is the heavy favorite, both in the primary and the general. I don't think the Republicans have even figured out who they want to run yet, or who among the folks that they want to run. So I do believe Joe's in a very, very strong position. He's definitely the front runner.
Is it because he was a U.S. attorney, or because of the strong ties with Evan Bayh, or a combination of the two?
Well, I think you have to look at his entire political history, I think, and I think he's finally meeting the moment. You know, he did a outstanding job as the United States attorney, and I think that that job that he did as U.S. attorney is propelling him because we have a crime crisis.
But you're ready to attack, right? I mean,
well, no offense, but with all due respect to my good friend Mr. Two here, I have always maintained that yes, Joe Hogsett is the.
Should we cover?
Joe Hogsett is the automatic front runner, obviously, because Joe's a political heavyweight in the room. However, if you take a closer look at the Hogsett record, it's like a summer blockbuster film where the trailer once again is the best parts. If you look at Joe's gun prosecution,
did you practice that before you came into?
All the time, but right after month. If you look at Joe's records on gun crime, nearly half the people who he prosecuted for gun crime served either 5 years or no time whatsoever. You know, the thing about public corruption, if you go back and look at the record of convictions, it's really not all that much, particularly when he was talking about the 25th floor. And also, when I heard Joe Hogsett's speech, hold up a second. When I heard
more people on the 25th floor in jail.
When I heard Joe Hogsett's speech, you know, on Wednesday night, all I could think of is, okay, this is Greg Ballard 3.0. More police officers, done that. More money invested in neighborhoods, already done that. $40 million in parks, hundreds of $1 millions because of Rebuild Indy. You know, a pre-K education program
that numbers are up, right?
That Hogsett came late.
There were some numbers that he did present that would have to say he has a point. Whether we want to have him to have a point or not, I don't know.
And you can't beat somebody with nobody.
No, and that you're absolutely right. And the challenge for Republicans is going to be to find a non-traditional candidate.
Is there someone
who can really? There are probably a couple of people, but I'm not ready to.
And some have already said no, right?
Yeah. Some have already said no, but the challenge. But then again, remember, this is where we were also back in 2007. You know, everybody thought Bart Peterson was going to coast to a third term.
It's a totally different. It's a totally different environment.
No, but you just said though. But you just said anything can happen in politics, right?
Absolutely right. You're right about that. But I would say 2007 is not an analogy. You had an incumbent mayor. You had a property tax crisis. Joe's not the incumbent. He's just the front runner, and he doesn't have a record.
He's just run as many times as you think he was an incumbent.
Well, I mean, you know, he has run before, but I think he's meeting the moment here. I think this is his moment.
One of the other people we talked to, John Gregg, was there. Of course, John Gregg ran for governor in the last cycle. This is what he had to say when I asked him, are you running in 2016? I have to ask you the question, sir. You came so close in the last cycle. Yeah. Will you consider it again to run for governor?
You know, we have been considering it. A lot of people have asked. The race was 49-47. It was real close. We spent time talking with a lot of people about it, and it's something that we've been checking out and thinking about. But today's Joe Hogsett's day, and I'm glad to be here for him.
Is there an appetite for the man from Sanborn? He had one of the best political commercials in that cycle. They were very funny. But do folks, I asked them, is Indiana ready to go back to being blue or purple?
Well, I don't think John Gregg has the juice that John Gregg, you know, might have had. If you look at what happened in southern Indiana, the fact that John Gregg campaigned for a number of candidates down there, and southern Indiana is now in the hands, for the most part, of Republicans. So it might be time for John to just sort of, you know, pass the torch along, maybe to a Democratic mayor. You know, that I think is a Democrat's best chances in 2016.
But he has
I think John be an excellent candidate for us in 2016. One of the things that not very many people who are close to politics don't understand is that it takes a lot to learn how to run a statewide campaign, and he did it this first time, learned a lot from that process, and I think he was an excellent candidate for us in 2016. And he's obviously the front runner because he came so close.
He might have won last time if they hadn't had perhaps Obama on the ticket instead of Hillary Clinton, because she was definitely, I think, more popular in those southern Indiana areas than President Obama turned out to be. But if John does run again, I do wonder if Democrats are going to have a fight, because you have some, he does make a point, you have some other candidates who would be new names, they have mayors, they have records too, right, who waited before, who may not want to wait again.
It's entirely possible. I would say this, though, we still don't know what Governor Pence is going to do, and I think that that's sort of the linchpin of everything else that happens. If Governor Pence decides he's going to run for president, which I think he's leaning towards now.
Who runs it?
I think Bosma is the leading candidate and then Sue Ellspermann as well, I think.
Is it? Is it a Bosma?
There's some talk that the speaker might run. There's some talk that Sue Ellspermann might run. There's some talk that some people were saying they were trying to recruit Mitch Daniels to come back and run again because he wouldn't be term limited because there was a break in between. Now, these are just, yeah, I don't think so either, but hey, these are the names that, you know, just pop up out of nowhere. But once again, it shows what a difficult climate and environment it is going to be for Democrats. And if my Democrat friends are smart,
I don't think that's right at all.
You'll look to your mayors, you look to the Tom McDermotts, you look to the Greg Goodnights, and look to those folks, you know, for new leadership.
Well, I think Greg Goodnight would be an excellent candidate for governor. I'm not so sure about the guy from Lake County being a great candidate.
2016, completely different year. I think I wouldn't say that Democrats have no shot.
Yeah.
But in 2014, we do know a major change in the U.S. House, putting Indiana Congressman Luke Messer in the 5th highest-ranking position for the Republican leadership. Messer has now been elected chair of the House Republican Policy Committee. What does that mean for Indiana? I mean, we often think, oh, he's just 5th in line to the throne of the House, but that has to mean something, right, for our state.
It's always positive when somebody from the state of Indiana gets a leadership role in Congress. It can't do anything but help us as long as he's trying to help the state of Indiana and not just trying to further a right-wing base.
He's a good pick for, you know, he's got both legislative experience at the state level and in Congress. He was an executive director of the state Republican Party. He's got great political ties. He's got the kind of right style,
right.
I think,
and
that will...
Yeah, and also Luke was also the president of the freshman class, too,
Right.
sort of working with Republicans and Democrats together. And Luke does have an extensive policy background. A lot of people tend to forget that, which, once again, why he got to be the head, you know, of the policy committee. And actually, I think he'll be good for Indiana because he'll do things like want to repeal the medical device taxes hurting Indiana. He'll do things like, you know, with coal as well. So
it's a good pick, then.
I think it's a good pick.
Look at that.
I think the Republicans.
You're all agreeing. This is...
I think that the Republicans did the right thing. He's an up-and-coming guy who's going to do well, and hopefully he's going to look out for the state.
And were they looking for fresh blood after, or were they just...
You know what? I think fresh blood, but also establishment. Luke Messer, I think he is a fairly new face on the scene, but he's very much established Republican. He is not going to go out there and do anything crazy that's going to make it harder for them to win in the future.
And they want to make it easy for 2016,
Yes.
I would imagine.
that's
yes?
right. The establishment always wins.
Not always. Richard Murdoch beat Richard Lugar.
I think I see a high. Is that a high? So who's taking us out to St. Elmo's before the Colts game?
I think it was you.
Apparently not.
As you know, I'm going.
I got this one. I had a good Tuesday.
All right. As you know, I'm going to church. Here we go. If you want to keep up to date with our insiders, of course, our Twitter handles are there for you to take a look at. Join the conversation throughout the week with Abdul, Kip, Laura, Jennifer, and Mary Beth. She's here with us on Sundays. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
What Indianapolis This Week continues a one-on-one conversation with IPS Superintendent Dr. Louis Ferebee. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. After his listening tour, Dr. Louis Ferebee is now taking action. His resume shows that he does not shy away from tough issues and making tough decisions. On Tuesday, the school board will tackle rearranging several programs and ending one. Here's our conversation with the leader of IPS in our Sunday Spotlight.
Pending board approval, we'll move forward with those changes for the upcoming school year, and then for Key Learning Community, that change would take place the following school year. The whole purpose of the redesign is respond to community input that I've received over the past couple months, and also to ensure that we streamline our magnet and choice offerings and we're more efficient with our operations.
You always said that student performance, that students will always come first while you're in this office. Is that part of your overall strategy to focus on student achievement and to do what's best for kids?
Absolutely. Student achievement is always paramount. We want to ensure that we have high interest magnet and choice offerings, but we want to make sure that they're yielding positive student outcomes.
IPS is also changing course on where it promotes its magnet school programs. Its annual fair at Arsenal Technical High School is out, Circle Center Mall is in, and it happens next Saturday.
We're proud to be Indianapolis Public Schools. We're proud to be public. But this really is about ensuring that everybody is aware of what we have to offer. And so in my listening tour, I would speak with families who would say, I didn't know IPS had this offering. I didn't know this was available in IPS. And what I also got is that, you know, the traditional magnet fair that we had at Arsenal Technical High School was limited in terms of exposure to families. And so we want everyone to be aware of what we have to offer, and this is a great opportunity to do some shopping as well. The mall is centrally located. Parking won't be an issue. It's an opportunity for families to learn more about the retailers at the mall, but also to get to know IPS better, and that's what we want to have happen on that Saturday. So we're excited going into the holiday season that families can come out on that Saturday, November 22nd.
So mark your calendars. The Showcase of Schools will feature 60 schools. It is next Saturday at Circle Center Mall in downtown Indianapolis from 10 a.m. through 4 p.m. We're getting closer to the 2015 Indiana General Assembly. What we can expect this week as legislative leaders come together. State House reporter Katie Hines will have all the details when Indianapolis This Week continues. The next legislative session at the Indiana State House is being put into motion this week. RTV6 State House reporter Katie Hines has more on what we can expect as lawmakers return to Indianapolis.
We're expecting a busy week ahead at the State House. On Monday, we'll get a sneak peek at some of the big issues that will come up during the next legislative session. Both all four caucus leaders and the Indiana Chamber will outline their legislative priorities. Then on Tuesday, lawmakers will be sworn in and assigned to committees for what will be the start of a long budget session ahead.
Thanks, Katie. We look forward to your reports this week, and we'll follow you with more details as those agendas are rolled out during the week. Thank you for watching Indianapolis This Week. Remember that we are always on our website, theindychannel.com, and the RTV6 app. Have a great Sunday, and go Colts!